Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Bosch Legacy Season 2, Episode 9 reaction and review. We are so close now to the finale. We can see it, we can feel it. We know that even though the Ellis situation seems to have been dealt with, that not everybody is out of the woods.
No, not everybody is, but I mean, overall, this was a really exciting episode. There was a couple things that everybody needs to put their hard hats
Yeah,
on for that I have a
yeah.
hot take on what happened with the whole Honey Chandler trial or pre-trial. There was some stuff in there that I was like, okay, this isn't as slick as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But everything that happened with Maddie, coming in the last second, saving her dad, I mean, it was so exciting. This season has been pretty good.
This has been my favorite Harry Bosch related story all season. It certainly hasn't been the Carl Rogers stuff. And so like found I found the overall climax of this story to be really exciting
Yeah.
and interesting, but also a little bit bittersweet because, granted we haven't seen the finale yet and maybe the finale is going to have some like jaw-dropping absolute fire twist, but I'm just sitting here being like, could this have not been the finale? Like, could we have had this felt like it could have been the finale.
Absolutely, especially with, we've been giving kind of a little bit of crap to the whole Mo love interest.
Yeah.
Do we need this? And it was very likely that something else had to be going on. It couldn't just be like Mo's getting a love interest, but just the same, it wasn't exactly the twist that I thought it was going to end up being. So that very well could have set up next season, and it still might. I
Yeah.
mean, we only have one episode left. That can't get wrapped up in one episode.
We'll see. I hope you were correct. I did not think the Honey Chandler pre-trial was going to be wrapped up in what was that, like 5 minutes, and they were just like, you're fine. Go about your day.
Yeah, you're fine. Everything's inadmissible. Here's a bag of shredded paper. Who knows what's on it? It's just okay. We'll get into that.
All right. Well, before we do, hit that subscribe button for more coverage of Bosch Legacy leading up to this finale. By hitting that subscribe button, you're also helping to support us as we continue to provide you coverage of this show. We are very, very much appreciative of everyone who does.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It really does help the channel and helps us to continue to bring more Bosch videos. All
Okay.
right,
Yeah.
we already have our hard hats
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Let's just get into the Honey Chandler pre-trial. So I think, the last episode was really exciting for me because I was just like, how is she going to get out of this? Martin is done with her. Like, oh my goodness, her voice is on the tape. Like, there's no way to get out of this. Like, it was so exciting. And starting into this episode, it was actually exciting for me to see that Martin did come and help her and bail her out. And that even though he's skeptical and he's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like, I know you keep telling me to trust you and that you can get out of it, but like, come on. But he was there for her.
He was, and that was appreciated. It's just what I just don't appreciate about this storyline is I love good courtroom drama. I say this as someone who watched 9 seasons of Suits before it was cool. Like, I just think it is great. I know I'm totally being that elitist guy, but no, I know I just really like seeing these sort of courtroom showdowns. And for Honey, this was an opportunity to really let her shine on an episode or a couple of episodes, as opposed to being, more of someone who Bosch can work with, someone Bosch can come to, that she can really have a little bit of main character energy for a little bit. And so for this storyline, does this sort of be tied together? I mean, maybe it's visited again in some other way down the road. It's just that it feels like a big missed opportunity that you could have done so much more with it, and it could have been so much more clever and long-term created than, okay, we've just found a way to wiggle our way out of this situation, and now we can get back to what really matters. When it's like, this could have really mattered too.
Let's talk about that bag of shredded paper because I was like, okay, one of two things has happened here when she first gave it to Matthew, who gave it to the FBI. I'm like, okay, so the FBI is either a bunch of dum-dums, and they're not even going to look at this paper, and they're going to be like, it's what you say it is. Oh, she asked for the files. Now here's some shredded paper. We don't need to take the time to tape it together, have somebody look through it to actually make sure that it says Carl Rogers on it, because like they do need to do that. And I feel like they would have done that. So one of two things have happened here. Either they didn't do that and they just walked in with a bag of shredded paper that they could have shredded themselves, because she then had her own attorney on the stand to be like, what are these? Oh, these are the Carl Rogers files. I gave them to you for safekeeping. Yes, you did. So she didn't shred anything. So either they have just a bag of shredded paper and they're a bunch of dum-dums, or they did put it together and she made like copies of the files and shredded those. And then at that point where it's like, if that's the case, then the subpoena that they put out would have been legit, because they would have actually had shredded files that's enough for them to get a proper subpoena to be like, actually, these are the files. They are shredded. Okay, she did that, but then she entrapped us in this. So like, then we're still on the good because we went with what we had. You know, Matthew brought us these papers. They say Carl Rogers on them. These are the files. Like, you know, you can't do that. So it's kind of like, I have to believe then that they're just dum-dums and that it's not actually on there. Honey would have had to have banked on the FBI not putting together that shredded paper and actually looking at it. And that's a really big gamble.
It is a really big gamble. And I feel like Bosch Legacy in some ways tried to set up some of what happened with Chandler in this episode. It just still feels to me way too abrupt. And it feels once again another classic case of, okay, on this crime show, you want to make it that your particular group of protagonists are far smarter and better at their jobs than every single other person in there. And I get it. Nobody wants to see Honey Chandler go away to prison or have anything else happen to her. But at the same time, I do want to see the opposition be a little bit more competent than this, a little bit more where they're able to understand where they're being played, where they're not being played, because basically they just get like pantsed in the middle of this pre-trial. And it's just like, you guys not only you lose in embarrassing fashion where you're basically having to stand there in front of the judge and just be like, well, I guess we don't really have anything now. And it's just, okay, it was way too fast of an ending for a story that could have been exciting. And I understand that we did go from there to some stuff that really was exciting, but couldn't we have had both?
Yeah, for sure. I would have liked to have seen more, of Honey not just pantsing them where they're just like, oh, well, everything's inadmissible now. So this recording, it's all a big nothing burger. And that they're like, well, I guess there's nothing to go forward on. So, I mean, I guess we're kind of there where it's like, all right, well, I guess this part of Carl Rogers is done. But then we get into the Mo and his girlfriend of it all, or his romance, where it seems like, as Honey's leaving the courtroom, we've got, Mr. This isn't over. This isn't over. I'm going to get a terrible impression of that guy. I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
Whoever that actor is. This isn't over. I've got you. We're still coming for you. Where I was like, oh no, please no. Like, just leave this Carl Rogers thing alone. Like, please stop. No. This is the end of it. The FBI were dum-dums. They came in with the shredded paper. They lost. Like, just stop.
No, that is clearly their response. It's like, no, we've got a mole in here and we're going to do the whole mole thing leading into the finale.
Yeah. So Mo's romance is actually a mole that's digging into him and, probably Bosch and everybody else. And she's, infiltrated Mo and his work. And I mean, it was starting to get more and more obvious the last little while that that's what she was doing, because he'd be working on something. She'd be like, hey, what are you working on? I'm like, okay, this is not right.
No, Mo clearly has not been in a position enough to understand when he's being played and when he's not being played. And, who knows what actual feelings are there. But I think the big clear situation we're in entering the finale is that now we're moving from, okay, Chandler was in big trouble. Now Mo is in big trouble. And with Mo, who knows who else is going to be brought into it at this point? Because, I mean, we've all seen how closely Mo and Bosch have worked together through not just this season, but for quite a long time. And so we're careening towards something pretty bad. And because, Mo had his guard down, it's pretty easy for him to have let loose a lot of information he probably should not have.
Yeah, I mean, they set that up really well that Mo met her at sort of this like hacker convention where it's like, oh, she dabbled a little bit. Really, she just does a podcast about like this cover was put together just like beautifully in a way that would make sense that he would just trust her.
It's so funny that we have the dumb side of things over here with Chandler. It's like over here, it's like, hey, look at you guys. You guys can be good at your job. You can do something a little bit more effectively for now. Sure, I'm assuming you're going to like completely fall apart in the finale and it's not going to work. 'Cause nobody wants to see Mo go away either.
Please, 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 going into this finale, dear Bosch gods, do not bring Carl Rogers into season 3, please.
Okay, let's get to the good stuff now because the Ellis storyline was great. Like I enjoyed everything about this. I mean, sure, I also just sort of sit back and I'm just like, what were you actually trying to do at this point, Ellis? Like, did you really think you were going to get away with everything? Did you think you were going to leave? I mean, yeah, sure, you made some movement to try to make it happen, but there was a really good cat and mouse game here. I think the action leading up to it was great, even if like it wasn't that hard to tell that at some point during this episode we were probably going to see Maddie save Bosch. It was still really compelling to watch.
Yeah, and it was also compelling to watch Bosch and Maddie kind of going back and forth here where, Bosch is like, oh, I'm fine. I've said I wouldn't lie to you. I'm not lying to you. I'm just not telling you everything. And that's fine because I'm honestly telling you that I'm not telling you everything. And she's on the other side being like, stop. Like, Ellis is still out there. Oh, I have a gut feeling he's just going to go away. Okay, well, you don't know that, and she's like, you need to have actual protection right now until we figure out, has he gone away? Hasn't he gone away? Like, just stop. Your gut is not going to save you in this case. And it didn't. Like, yes, Ellis was trying to run away. He got some ID, but he had a boat that wouldn't go. Like, he was really stuck still. So it was like they were both kind of right, but kind of wrong.
Here is where I think we're set up in a really compelling spot now entering this finale. I mean, obviously, Bosch is lucky that Maddie turned up in that situation and that she wasn't exactly ignoring everything that was in her own gut about this.
Yeah.
It's great to listen to your father, but not in a situation where your father is putting himself in grave danger and needs a little bit of backup. But there's a point in this showdown where Maddie takes him out. The question is just going to be what Ellis was really doing. Was Ellis grabbing a weapon? Was Ellis doing something to really show that he was ready to commit some sort of physical action? I think because of what happened out in the field in Hollywood earlier this season, this is finally where Bosch Legacy is going to answer my big question of when that is going to kind of come back into this show and play out. And I think it's right here.
I think that Ellis was going to do something to Bosch. I mean, they were in the middle of a fight. They were fighting over a gun. Like, I mean, it felt very, to me, obvious that he was in trouble. I think this is going to be a clean shoot. And I know that Maddie might be in her head a little bit, like you said, because of what happened earlier. But I think the biggest thing she might be in her head about is this is the first real like time she's had to shoot somebody as an officer now, that she's going to have to really feel that out. Like this is a pretty serious deal. And she's the person who saved her dad. So there is a bit of a shift in that where, Bosch has saved her at the beginning of the show and now she saved him. That moment that she's looking at him, just mouthing, I got you. I was like, oh my God, you got me right in my heart.
It was very sweet. It was very tender. Like, these two have not always been the best at like expressing themselves emotionally to each other, but that moment meant a lot. And I think it is useful, as frustrating as it might have been for Maddie in the moment, not being told everything. Like, it's going to be useful in a legal sense now,
Yeah.
because now, as Maddie goes through whatever the process is in the aftermath of all of this, she can say and be truthful that she didn't know what her dad was doing. All she knew was that she showed up in that situation.
Yep.
It looked like her father was in danger, but regardless of if it was her father or not, because there was this other dangerous person that looked like he was about to do something bad, she took action, and she can stand on that and mean it.
Absolutely.
I think really this episode succeeds mostly just in that we had a real build up to the final conclusion. We still are left with something after that conclusion to get excited about when it comes to the finale. I just hope that they really stick the landing here. We already know that there's a season 3, so we don't have to worry about, okay, is the cliffhanger not going to be paid off? But it's just like, what's the inevitable cliffhanger going to be?
Carl Rogers. That's
no,
what I'm afraid of. Because listen, they have wrapped up the Ellis and Long story. That's pretty much all done. Honey is fine now. She's wiggled out of that recording. Everything is okay. So what's left? Mo and his girlfriend that's looking into them. Like, it feels like it's still Carl Rogers.
Carl Rogers will be the ghost that forever haunts. We will be in Bosch Legacy season 20, and Carl Rogers will just be popping up being like, you thought you saw the last of me.
Yeah, I know. Like, they need to wrap this up and get a different cliffhanger here for the last episode.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for the Bosch Legacy Season 2 finale. This is episode 10, The End of the Road, ... for now.
Well, at least it seems like the end of the road for the Carl Rogers story. It feels like it's done. Is that confetti?
Yes.
No more Carl Rogers, goodbye. It feels like everything really got wrapped up in this finale, and now we are moving into like what is such a wild cliffhanger.
Uncharted horizons, everybody. Isn't this fun? Isn't this exactly what we want from this show? I know I'm saying fun in the context of somebody being taken out in prison and whether or not Harry Bosch is responsible for it.
Yeah, leave it in the comments. We're going to get into it, but leave it in the comments. Do you think Bosch did this?
Okay, it's a really good cliffhanger, and I do appreciate the fact that it's not the same cliffhanger that they did at the end of last season, where I think for a police drama, it's so easy to just be like, oh, is this person dead? Did they get killed off? Let's find out. And they did that last season with Maddie. We don't need to see that again.
No, and it's also really interesting watching Legacy as opposed to, Bosch original, because he used to like toe the line a lot. It just feels like he's just doing whatever now. It just doesn't matter if it's like completely illegal or not. And I'm not saying that necessarily I think or not think he did this to, Doc in jail, but, he's really done some stuff like with that pipeline. That wasn't legal. Like, he's just not there anymore when it comes to like, I'm just going to toe the line. No, you don't toe the line anymore. You're just Batman.
He really is.
No, he really is. He's just out there dispensing his own justice, and Bosch is Batman.
Harry Bosch. Okay, well, before we go any further here, be sure to join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description below, because coming up, we have a live stream all about the Bosch Legacy finale, where we're going to take questions from you guys, discuss everything that happened, where the show is going to be going from here. We have a great time doing live streams on Patreon, and we're really grateful to everyone who has joined them.
Absolutely. And there is so much to talk about with this finale. I mean, let's just get into the meat, which is that cliffhanger. So we saw Maddie take a call off of Bosch's phone that was coming in. It was coming in from an inmate from prison. She picks it up. Hey, who's this? Oh, I'm Preston. Just tell Bosch that it's done, that I took care of it for him. It was very specifically about what happened to Doc. Now, it was said earlier in the episode when she got the call, it was like, hey, we just have to let you know, Doc is dead. Looks like, he unalived himself, and that's what's happened. So, just to let you know. And she's like, oh, okay, gonna deal with it the way that she's gonna deal with it. But
Yeah.
getting that call later, that's basically like, nah, your dad called in a Batman favor and was basically take care of him. The craziest part of that cliffhanger is I thought they were gonna like end it right there. Nope. Harry walks in and she's just like, so you got something you want to tell me? And just like, I just got this call just came in about this, you got something you want to tell me? The look on his face tells me he might have done it.
Okay, he might have done it.
I don't think so, but he might have.
I don't think so. I don't think he did it. I think what's going on here is one of a few different scenarios. It could be that he told someone behind bars to do something and they went a little bit overboard with whatever the objective was. My real tinfoil hat theory here, stamp that right on, is just that somebody has did this and they're trying to frame Bosch for it. And I think it's just so much easier to have someone place a call behind bars. It's very convenient in a way that Maddie is the person who answered, because then it's even easier to not have any direct objection. But if you're just there being like, oh, this was taken care of, click, goodbye, it's all over. And then you could just say, okay, I called, I said this, it was done, everything is taken care of. And now if you're Bosch, how do you find a way to walk this back, especially if your own daughter doesn't trust you anymore because she has seen him be Batman-y as of late. So she is going to wonder whether or not this is true, even if he denies it, which I'm sure is going to be the first 2 minutes of the season 3 premiere. He's going to be like, whoa, I didn't do this. And I think the only reason we didn't see that yet is because his wheels are just kind of turning, where he's just like, how did we get here?
Yeah, I think that this is some sort of a frame job too. I think, I don't know a lot about prison, but I'm assuming that the phone calls are all recorded, that then, there would be sort of an on record of this guy calling Bosch to be like, hey, that thing you wanted me to do, it's done for you. I got you, sort of thing, and then just hang up. Don't wait for Bosch to be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? That they would have enough to at least get the ball rolling. It feels like a setup. I don't think he's done that. But I mean, to be fair, that pipeline thing was pretty you're not riding the line on that.
Yeah.
That was just a straight crime. So is it possible that he would do something like that? I don't know. I think it would have to really be that Maddie's life is in danger, and it's not right now.
I think the only way Bosch would do that is if he saw no other way. And sort of like you just said, there is another way right now. You just have Doc sit behind bars. Now, what I'm going to go with as an idea for now, this kind of speaks a little bit towards everything that we've been talking about with Ellis and the watch and all this sort of scheme that was set up, that there's more people involved in all of this who are still kind of lurking around out there, who are very, very upset about the fact that Harry Bosch is responsible for a lot of this. And it was already pretty well known that, okay, Maddie is his daughter as well. So you can sort of connect all the dots here, figure out, okay, here is Doc, this person who is in prison, who had Maddie Bosch. We will have somebody take out Doc, call Bosch, be like, oh, it's taken care of. It will look like there is a reasonable motive that Bosch would have ordered out something like this. And we can have our revenge and we can go about whatever we want to go about now.
That whole tie up to the Ellis and Long story was pretty good. It was really slick watching Dr. Bosch walk down the hallways and go to Long's room and basically lie and say, oh, Ellis has already sung like a bird. So, and he's driven the bus over. He's handed you the bus schedule. So this is your time to finally come clean about everything. And he does, and he sings.
I think it's a situation where they realized, okay, we need to find out a good, cohesive way to find some element of closure on this. Like, because of my theory, I don't necessarily think that every aspect of this is done, but
Mhm.
I think they needed to move on from Ellis and Long specifically. This is the way
Yes.
to do that. Here is my one question. Does Bosch look enough like a doctor? If that is my doctor coming up to me, I'm gonna be like, "Are you Doctor Cop? Because you look like a cop."
Yeah, kind of. He kind of looks a little bit like House.
Okay, you touche. That is a pretty good. That's a pretty good point. I think it's just I have Titus too much ingrained into my brain that I can't see anything else.
Okay, so this was also a really good setup then that they took this confession, they took it to the judge and was like, here's this confession. He's like, it's not admissible. You got to come up with something else. And this is the greatest segue for Honey to decide that she's going to run for DA, to kind of be like, listen,
Yeah,
you've got like two choices here. You can either, accept this and release my guy because he didn't do it. And, here's somebody saying he didn't do it, a reliable source, he didn't do it, or I'll just release this.
yeah.
And everyone's going to know that you're putting away an innocent guy, knowingly putting away an innocent guy.
I really hope that all of this leads to an actual storyline of Honey Chandler running for DA. You
I hope
guys
so.
have thrown this out here now. You can't tease me by making this into a situation where she starts this and then she's like, you know what? I actually like what I was doing better. And then you just like walk it back because you're afraid of showing what that campaign is actually like. Like, you got to go out there, knock on doors, get your platform out there. It's a pretty tricky thing to do.
I think she's in just kind of a tough spot as well because it seems like everything's kind of broken down with her and Martin. Understandably, Martin's
Yep.
like, I'm done. And then, we had this beginning scene where Matthew's come up to her to be like, hey, whatever it is you're working on, I'd like to work with you. I was just like, are you kidding me? Even I was like, are you kidding me? No way Honey's going to be okay with that. And
Yeah.
she wasn't. She was basically like, you'll be fine somewhere else, not with me. I need to trust who I'm with. And, that's long gone.
Yeah. Matthew, goodbye. You will not be missed.
You blew it.
Yeah, you can go off into the recesses to never be seen again, potentially with Mo's love interest / FBI agent, who I actually am worried we will see again, by the way.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried too that she's gonna try to come back as an actual love interest next
Yeah.
season, to be like, hey man, I really blew it. I'm really sorry. I was very happy. We saw. Oh my God, we saw the interrogation with those two dumb
Yeah.
FBI agents. As soon as they sat down, I just like actually started laughing because I was just like, these two brought a bag of shredded paper
Yeah.
without looking at it to court and thought that was good enough. And now they're sitting in front of Mo, who's extremely smart. I was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, as soon as I sat down, I just burst out laughing. I was just like, no way. I can't take these two seriously.
How can you guys not find people better at their jobs? Like, is this their first case? Is this the first time they have ever done anything like this?
They need to bring in, if they're bringing in FBI agents next season, it needs to not be these two. I cannot take them seriously at all. They are no threat.
No, they are no threat. And, I didn't mind these two being terrible because every now and then it's just fun to laugh at terrible law enforcement on TV. But it's just like, this show can't make it that every single person at the FBI is way worse at their job than anybody at the LAPD. Because these are like the feds. Usually, if you're a fed, you have to be highly qualified and highly trained. But for now, let's just all point and laugh at these two. Let's just all roll our eyes at Mo's love interest, who really thinks she did something, who really thought that she had like hoodwinked him for some substantial period of time.
It was interesting too, that sort of back and forth where, they were really pushing on Mo to do this for them. And he was like, well, I want it in writing. No, there's no time for that. You just have to accept, what we're saying. And he was like, all right, well, give me a couple days and I'll get back to you. I'm just like, and they're like, okay. I was like, where's the urgency? A couple seconds ago, you were basically like, you have to accept it right now before you walk out the door or else. And then he was able to push out, a couple days. No problem. You can't write something up in a couple days. Stop.
There's
Stop.
There is no reasonable sense of time when you were terrible at your job. Maybe they don't know. This is really mean. Maybe they don't know how to type up a proper letter at this point. They clearly don't know how to put one together that's already
I
been
know.
shredded.
Oh my
So
God.
I don't think we can rule out any possibility with this FBI group. Just saying.
It was so satisfying. This was a really satisfying ending. I know that I was like, oh, the Mo love story.
Yeah.
You know, it came out together in a way that was pretty satisfying, especially when he was sitting across from her and just called her out and was
Yeah.
like, you can answer that call. You can tell them you're all right. I'm like, oh, Mo, you go.
I think it was a good end for his story. It's a very good end for the Carl Rogers story, mostly in just that
Yep.
it's done. I
Yeah, it's
think
done.
it's good that we're setting up for something more for Honey. What I really hope, and I don't want to see a full season of Maddie and Bosch just not trusting each other. Like, I feel like we've already had enough of that over the past year or two already.
Yeah.
I understand the concern based on the cliffhanger right now. Like, it's going to be there at first, but I want to see a situation where it's either fully resolved or everybody knows that they're on the same page, or they start playing it up that they're not on the same page and they find a way to use that to get more information, and it's like a little secret super spy thing.
Yeah, I it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because they've definitely trust has been a theme for a lot of the season between them where it's kind of been lobbying back and forth with a little distrust, a lot
Yeah.
of trust, a little distrust, like lots of conversations about honesty between them. And so, especially coming from Maddie, where she's just like, can I trust you? And he's like, yeah, I would never lie to you. I may not tell you everything, but
Mhm.
that's not lying to you. I can keep things to myself in they're my secrets, but I won't ever lie to you about it. And then this call comes in. The one thing I was really glad to see that they went into everything about her actually shooting somebody for the
Yeah.
first time. That, it was very clear that there was a gun and they ended up finding it and it was all fine. But the weight of it, that even though she knew that it was the right thing and, this person was threatening her dad, that it feels really heavy on her. And I think that that's not something that's really addressed in a lot of crime shows.
No, in a lot of crime shows, it's just like pat on the back, good job, you did it.
Yeah.
Back out on the street, act like it
Yeah.
never happened. Like
Yeah.
they did a good job with handling that. Like, I think there's still more that they can mine emotionally with Maddie after everything she went through this season, but they're obviously saving some things for the future, and that's fine. We know that there is a season 3 coming. We don't know when yet, so hopefully we'll have some more news on that in the months to come.
I'm really excited to go into season 3 now that we know that Carl Rogers is all done. Most of these storylines are wrapped up. It feels like, we've got the Honey DA story. We've got this Bosch probable frame job going on. Maddie's moving into her own place. She's broken up with her boyfriend. Things are like really kind of fresh slate for her. There's a lot to be excited about going into season 3, like a lot.
Yeah, I think this is going to be potentially the best version of Bosch Legacy, where they've kind of evolved everything and we're all in a good spot. But before we go, join our Patreon for that discussion all about the Bosch Legacy finale. We'll take questions, have a really good time. Thank you, of course, to all of our patrons for your support, and we'll see you guys here next time.